afternoon, good evening all, it's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid, a channel I'm creating not just only to bring awareness to the realities trauma creates, but I really want to get into the understandings around it, so that we can create meaningful ways of improving our lives and meaningful ways of healing. Now, this is the next video in the adoption series. And I want to put this video in the beginning of as I'm starting to get into the videos around how we can work with this stuff. And because when you're healing from adoption or when you're healing from foster care, how vastly complex it is. And it's a task that so much of it we have to do ourselves, that it becomes so overwhelming that it just can't be done. It's just too big. Where to begin? How do we do this? And what do we need to work on? Are the first places to go, and so that we don't get overwhelmed and go, this is impossible, this is never going to happen, let's just build a plateau of survival, which is what most of us do. Or we self-medicate and do all these things that we do to cope. But we can work with this stuff. We just need to work with it in a way that is manageable. And that is where this video comes in, and the understandings that I'm going to try my best to convey in a way that's contextually accurate and also understandable. And that is, work on what you need to that is directly affecting your personal life and your personal ecology. When you look at the whole vastness and the complexity of this, it overwhelms anyone. Everyone. No matter how much knowledge you have, you will be overwhelmed. But if we approach working on what is immediately affecting us right now, what do I need to work with right now to help my life and the circumstances that are going on around me right now? When we take that understanding and when we use that understanding, it becomes more manageable. And what my suggestion is around this, what to work with right now, is look at the connections immediately around you, the most important people in your circle, in your ecology, in your family that you've created. That's the right now. Because in having a functional, supportive ecology of people and safe and no one around us, no matter how small, even if it's just one person, it is still an ecology that is supportive. The more we create and engage with that and work on how we block that, how we separate ourselves from that, or how we sabotage being part of that, the more we understand that and we work on that, the more of a support base we can build, a foundation to build upon to grow it. Because when you're looking at adoption, and as I said in previous videos, when we're dealing with the expectations and demands and requirements of our adopted family, the family that raised us, or the requirements of the system around the homes that we were raised in, when you're looking at coming from multiple placements in foster care, and what that created, then we got to look at the negotiations to, one, find a biological family, and two, process what we're going to do with that information, and three, the negotiations with getting the answers we need from them. Without a firm base of support, my advice is don't go there. We need this base, otherwise we're not going to get through it. I don't care how much of a superhuman you think you are, you're not going to get through it. I've seen it happen, I know it happened, and I've experienced it. I unwittingly went out into the world to try to find pathways, to find biological family without any understanding of the implications that would create. And it cost me everything. My physiology freaking collapsed. When my fog collapsed, my health, everything went with it. And it took everything I had from me. That's part of the motivations for this channel, is I'm trying to find a way to make others aware of the implications. And also to build a path out for myself, to at least I have some value in this world because of the restrictions that that crash created and what that means. And all of this crash was out of my control. And there was no help out there and no understanding at all. And it was 90% physical. It nearly, well, I did have a couple of NDEs. It did kill me. And I came back twice. As I've said in previous videos, when the fog collapses in an uncontrolled fashion, when that survival state, all the neurological, neurophysiological implications of that, when that state collapses, with no understanding around it and no support base, most adoptees don't survive it. And the ones that do, you're a shadow of who you were. And your physical limitations are quite severe. So, in moving forward, if we have a support base and we work on that connections around that support base, and when we're healing, we work on what we need to whilst being part of that support base and constantly engaging with that support base, little by little, we will heal what we need to have our freaking life, to live the life that we want to live. It is not up to us to fix everything. Society expects us to carry the burden of what adoption and foster care removal and all that stuff creates. But also society expects us to fix it all. We can't. We're one person. And we're at the very, very center of it. And we also are the one that had no choice and no say in the process. So fix what you need to have the life that you want to live, to the degree and depth that you want to live it. But key is to work on that core ecology around you and grow that connection with those people in your inner circle that are part of your family, whether biological or not. And heal that process and every day engage and learn to be emotionally part of and get past the avatar of survival state and into the you as being part of that. If you work on that, you will have the base to deal with all this other peripheral stuff when it arises. Because if you don't, when this stuff confronts you when you're down the road, or when you, like for me, a very quick story of what happened. One of the many things that happened. When I found out about both my parents were mixed race, I got no names, no dates, no places. I just got some non-identifying information on race, and my father being a U.S. Ranger in Vietnam, my mother being a nurse, a volunteer nurse working with those wounded in the Vietnam War. And that's how my mother and father came together, New Year's Eve, and that's what I was conceived from. So I had a little bit of money, not a lot. I got on a plane, went to America to try to find pathways to find my mom and dad. I knew that the area around Gallup, New Mexico, was the base of where she was. Where she, that was a starting point where my mother, I found out later, that's where my mother ran to from North Dakota. But when I went to a town called TOC, Truth or Consequences in New Mexico, is where I ended up. The second morning I was there, the first morning I was there, I arrived pretty late at night. The next morning I went down to going down the grocery store down the road from the hostel to get some supplies, some food. And I'm walking down this laneway, and this lady, a native lady in a wheelchair, wailing and screaming and crying, wheeled herself out of this little shanty shack at the back of the hostel, latched onto my leg and wouldn't let go. I had no idea what was going on. Freaked the hell out of me. She only spoke Spanish. And when you're in the Southwest, most indigenous people around there only do speak Spanish. They don't speak, they're very, very little English. And because I was not far from the border, even more so. After about 5 or 6 minutes, the commotion, another lady came out who spoke more English. And she basically explained that this woman thought that I was her son that was taken from her at birth, had returned. She thought I was her son. Through some conversations, we worked out that I was only a month out. It was close. But the legacy of that smashed me and put me in such a shell-shocked state of what the hell am I trying to do, that it affected the next 6 to 12 months of my trying over there trying to find where to go. I approached every interaction on every native community that I went to, every powwow that I went through, every tribal gathering that I went to, the ones I was invited to or not, the ones that were open, and I went there. I always stood on the edge because of what that implied. I was waiting to be invited in. And being what's referred to as white passing, because both my parents are mixed blood, I got light skin. What's referred to as white passing. It adds another layer of being on that outside. And what that implies when you're looking at trying to heal is it's a complete overwhelmment of the task of trying to find pathways to find family. And because I didn't have a secure base, I didn't have that circle of close family or friends, I was alone. It hit that overwhelming point each and every time, and you just shut down. When you go through trauma, you shut down. It's a free state, and you become a functional free state. A person, you're existing and living in a functional free state. To avoid this, we need to have that base, that core, and instead, even if it's just one person, it doesn't matter. And we need to heal and work on creating that base so that we can start to engage where we need to. That is the key message of this video, before it gets too long. Without that base, we will get overwhelmed. If we have that base and that base understands us and we work on that, we at least have the support to ease that overwhelmment and to titrate between that so that we can start to get what we need to from the life and the world around us, and only heal what you need to support the reality that you want to live, the life you want to create. It is not up to us to heal every facet of the reality that is adoption and the reality that is foster care and all the implications it creates. It is our responsibility to heal our lives and to live the lives we want to live, to the level we want to live them. So as always, be mindful, be safe, be respectful. I love you guys' comments and feedback, and I'll see y'all next time.